Is it good? Can everyone hear me? Sound off in the chat if you're able to hear. There we go. Okay. Sounds like everything's working. We'll give it just a couple minutes, and then I've got my handy dandy agenda, and then we'll get going. Let a few more, maybe a few more people arrive. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Just gonna wait till like probably 2 minutes after, and then get going. People can rewind if necessary. All right, hey, we're gonna go ahead and get started. My name is Bryce Funk. I'm the creative director for the Nameless project. And before we get going into kind of the meat and potatoes of the agenda, I just want to start with a quick story that kind of just kind of gives an overview of what we do and why we do it. I want to show you guys a still. I met this gal at Marion Square Park. In downtown Salem, maybe 18 months ago, and I had my camera with me. I pretty much always, bring my camera with me when I'm out. And this specific event, Salem PD had gone through and posted eviction notices, and they were evicting everyone out of Marion Square Park. Really interesting circumstances. It was mainly for environmental reasons. That was a big push for it, apparently, with that park. But they were going in and kicking everyone out. And if you're around Salem 18 months ago, Marion Square Park was just absolutely packed with people. It's just north of downtown Salem, right by the Center and Marion Street bridges that go over into West Salem. Packed full of people. So I stopped and I talked to this gal, and she was asking me what I was doing and just kind of explained to her, who I am and this idea of the Nameless project. We were maybe working on the website then, but hadn't started the nonprofit or anything like that. So just kind of gave her, here's what I do, here's why I'm out here, and shared with her that, we like to look at, one of our purposes is kind of educating people and looking at the intersection of homelessness, foster care, human trafficking, and incarceration. And I kind of, gave her my little spiel just like that. And one of the first thing she said was, "Oh, I was a foster kid." And she explained her story, and she went into care at like 8 years old, was in care for 10 years, and the day she turned 18, her foster family said, "We don't get paid for you anymore," and kicked her out. And she'd been homeless on the streets for, I think she was 32 when I took this image, so a long time. And so I just wanted to share that. Story with you guys. Those are some of it's the reason we exist, is to go out and share those stories and to make those stories available to people, to help the community better understand what really are the problems facing people on the streets. What are the problems facing foster kids, unreached people groups, all across the world. So that's why we exist. The reason that story specifically was I was going through images today and I saw that and remembered her story. It's one that has really always stuck with me. Yeah, so I want to get in before really dive into kind of what we've been doing and kind of what's coming up next. This is the first monthly update, and I want to dive into why are we even doing these to begin with. And the main thing is transparency. All of us at the Nameless Project, we want to be really big on transparency. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? How, what are the funds in? How are funds going out? How are they being used internally? All of that stuff. We want to be really transparent with all that stuff, because the reality is that we are just stewards of these resources, both time, your guys' time, the people that give the time to watch the content that we put out, to read the stuff on the website, but good stewards of the finances of our own time and all that stuff. So that's the big thing is we just want to be transparent about what we're doing. I've spent a lot of time working with and for nonprofits, and I know people can tend to get a little frustrated with, how are the dollars that I give being used, and we want to be overly transparent, maybe annoyingly transparent, would be a good way to describe that. Second thing is we just want to keep everyone updated. This is the Nameless Project is something that we run, it's not part-time, but like we don't take a salary from any of this stuff. So we're constantly working on stuff, but it's not stuff that's always getting constantly put out. So we just want to keep you guys updated with what's going on behind the scenes, stuff that's coming out in the future, small little updates to the website, all that stuff. And then the big thing for us too is provide an opportunity for the community to ask questions, to come in and have this thing. We debated doing this via Zoom, but we just thought YouTube was a better way to archive everything on YouTube so people can go back and watch later. And so there's a live chat that I have access to right here that I can look at. You can ask questions and we can answer them. We can answer them here. And so that's another big thing, as a way for you guys to engage. We don't want to feel like we're some distant organization or whatever. So that's kind of the purpose of these. The goal is to run one a month. We haven't really nailed down if it's going to, consistently be the second Saturday of every month. We haven't really established that yet, or when would be a good time to do this. We just kind of felt like there's been so much happening for us lately, and so much stuff that's kind of about to unfold the next few weeks to few months, that we feel like we want to do an update. So, and here we are. Okay, so the first thing I just kind of want to hit on more, I guess, maybe housekeeping stuff really quick before we dive too deeply into this. And I'm just going to touch on this because we'll be putting out a video in the coming weeks specifically about this. Another one of me sitting in the studio just talking to the camera. Is kind of what are the values of the Nameless Project. And if you go to the homepage, they're right on the homepage: storytelling, access to information, and pathways for engagement. And so really all that we do, we kind of run through those three filters, like how does this help us tell stories? How does this provide the community with greater access to information? And how are we creating pathways to engagement? And so those are kind of some of the things that we're going to touch on as we're going through, as we're going through this list today. So storytelling, obviously, that's kind of the top thing for us. Is our byline there is connecting people to marginalized communities through immersive storytelling. And we get asked all the time, what does immersive storytelling mean? And something that, we were really adamant about when we first started working on this project 5 years ago, was that if we were going to do anything in the homeless community, we didn't want it to be like a one and done thing where we go in, we make a documentary, and then, we kind of like brush that off and be like, okay, we made our homeless documentary and we're done. We wanted to go in, and we wanted this to become something that is just part of us. And that's really what's happened. I was out at Wallace Marine Park earlier this morning, doing outreach and getting to talk to people and pray over people and meet some physical needs and, meet some spiritual needs as well. So for us, it's really more than just the storytelling is a big piece of it. And we didn't want it to be just, hey, make the homeless documentary and then get out, because a lot of the folks that are now out at Wallace have become our friends, and we know who they are, they know who we are. I know their kids and their grandkids, and have seen pictures of their family, and they've seen pictures of my son and my wife, and all sorts of stuff. So for us, that's the immersive aspect of it, is that our goal is to really embed in these communities, Same thing with Everest Orphanage Association. That's kind of on the agenda as well. Some beautiful updates with that. Um, yeah, it's immersive. You know, we've been to Uganda. We spent 8 days at the orphanage with Derek, with the kids, so that when we're telling stories, we're telling them from a place of passion, because these are our friends and these are people that we know. It's not just going in to tell a story and then coming out. So that's where immersive comes from. Access to information. I have a big heart for data and information. That's my educational background, is applied mathematics. So I really enjoy taking data and breaking it down in ways that make it easier for people to understand. Because there is so much data surrounding foster care and homelessness, human trafficking, incarceration, and how all of these things connect and lead to one another. And it's, to me, it's really fascinating. And so helping distill that down for everyone to understand is impactful, because I don't think everyone is called into, to have a heart for the homeless or foster kids or whatever. We're all called to different things. But I think it's important for us to be able to understand what's happening in our communities and what's happening in our cities. So a big heart for us is making that information just way more accessible, so that it's easier to understand what's happening in our cities. So big piece there. And then pathways for engagement, because watching things on a screen is one thing, but actually going out into your community, and reaching the lost and meeting those physical needs, meeting those spiritual needs, all those things. The actual engagement piece, that's where lives start to get changed, where your life, certainly with my life, I started going out to Wallace Marine Park, maybe, I think we just came up on like 4 years, started working with Be Bold Street Ministries out there, and it's completely changed my life. Anyways, so that's kind of the values. We're going to put out a whole video on our values, so there's that. So I guess starting with stories, we've got quite a few more stories going out. Our hard drives are rather full. We're working on a lot of things. I want to give you guys a quick teaser to one that will be coming out hopefully early next week. We just finished up a few shots at Wallace today for it. But it is this gentleman here. His name is Aidan. I'm sorry, that's a terrible screen grab. But hey, listen to his story real quick.
So like initially what led me to the streets, I left when I was about 11 years old. It wasn't necessarily a bad life, but it kind of just fell apart, and we always moved around. We always had to fit in with the next right group. So I think that had a lot to do with why I left at an early age. And I hit the streets, and as soon as I hit the streets, I got addicted to drugs and crime, and just that needing to be a part of something. And the streets welcomed me with open arms, and I spent the next 13 years just in darkness, and that led me to Wallace Marine Park. I spent pretty much 90% of that time from 11 to 23 out in that park. Again, just accepted by the streets, the life, and so for me and many others, it was home, you know what I mean? So pretty much there's the softball fields, and then there's the last parking lot, and then from that point on, you know what I mean? Like, it's had many different, what it is now is not what it used to be, but it was home in a sense of like a community. Me specifically, it was somewhere that I didn't have to worry about the real world. I was so misguided, like it felt like a whole different world. You know what I mean? Like, once I walked into those woods, the rest of the world didn't exist. That's what Wallace was to me.
Been out here for a long time. It's just grown exponentially.
Yeah, Ken's down.
So that is Aidan. Absolutely beautiful soul. I've only known Aidan for the last handful of months, and it's been just incredible getting to know him and hearing more of his story. Got to see him today. It was absolutely wonderful. So yeah, really excited to be rolling out more of his story later. I mean, what you saw was only a piece of it, Yeah, so really looking forward to rolling more of that out. Really enjoyed the process of making that. Got to tell several more stories from folks at Wallace Marine Park today. Some homeless individuals who live out at Wallace. That drone shot that was in Aidan's piece is from Wallace Marine Park, and just some folks talking about fentanyl and the crisis that is fentanyl. Folks that live in a community that is tremendously impacted by the effects of fentanyl. Got to hear some stats earlier this week regarding fentanyl. The U.S. Border Patrol seized enough fentanyl at the southern border last year to kill every single human on the planet. That's how potent it is, and that's how much is coming into the country and making its way into these communities as far north as Oregon, Washington, Montana, Idaho. It's a huge issue. So just hearing some perspective from some folks on the street and hearing their tears. We have, if you watched Reese's testimony that we did at Be Bold's We See You event that was a few months ago, we got to set up the entire studio at the event and do interviews, and it was absolutely wonderful. So we've got about 5 or 6 more of those that'll be rolling out as well. Really looking forward to sending those out. Just some incredible perspective from both folks that live on the street, folks that used to live on the street, and folks that are just involved in ministry and how ministry has changed their life and making that choice to sacrifice their time and their energy to go minister to people on the street and how that's changed their life. Just some incredible stories and some just wonderful perspective. Really looking forward to that. And I think the one that's the most exciting for me is it's almost time to release Your Water Can Be Safe. It's finished its festival run, and so now that it's not up for any more awards, we can go ahead and work on releasing that. So we're working on a whole release strategy. We're not just going to throw it on YouTube and say, here it is. So I don't want to share too much more with that. There's a few things going on behind the scenes that I'm sure you guys will all hear about in the next couple months if they all come to fruition. But it is coming out. If you haven't seen the intro for it yet, I believe there's a link. I think there's a link in the description for that. There's not, but I'll put one in there. So go watch. Go watch that. Really excited to get that piece out. Okay, So that's all for stories that are kind of rolling out that we've already kind of worked on. A few more farther on the horizon, but that's for another update. Another really exciting thing that we're starting to work on this month is launching the Nameless Project podcast. Everyone has a podcast these days. And I didn't want to start one if it was just going to be an everyone has a podcast these days type of podcast, but we've put a lot of effort in to try and make it something that's going to add value to the community. And so we're co-hosting it with Matt Massera from Be Bold Street Ministries. If you don't know Matt, if you haven't seen him on any of the stuff we've done, absolutely remarkable human. I can't say any words I say will fall short for sure. Absolutely incredible person. Really excited that he's coming on to share his perspective because he was in the drug world for 27 years, spent time living on the streets. He has incredible perspective. He's come out of that, been reconciled through faith in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. So really excited to have Matt on to share his perspective and what he's doing, because he is out on the streets in the community, meeting with folks that live on the streets, to lawmakers, to law enforcement officers, every single day of the week. So just really excited to have his perspective on and be bringing more of that, and to have other people from the community on to share what's really happening. So really looking forward to that. Launching the Nameless Project podcast. Another thing that's coming, if you watched our 2024 goals video, this was one of them, is launching Send Hope. Send Hope is this project that we've been dreaming up kind of since we started, since Brooke and I started with foster care. There's a wonderful organization up in Portland called With Love that you can, once you have a kiddo in your home, you can send them, your placement letter and some of your contact info, and they have all sorts of stuff from, I think it's like 0 into, it's at least 0 to 6, but I think it goes even past that, of car seats, playpens, clothing, like shoes, like anything you need for a child, they have it up there. It's in Portland, so we're in Salem, so it's about an hour north, and it does take a couple days for them to get the stuff all. I mean, they put a tremendous amount of effort into it, so it takes, and it's all volunteer, so it takes a little bit of time for them to get everything together to go get it. And in our experience, and for the people that we know that foster, the first 24 to 48 hours of having a kiddo in your care can be absolute mayhem. Even if you just have an infant, you go from not having an infant to all of a sudden having an infant, it can be a little bit crazy. So being able to have volunteers throughout the city that can meet those immediate physical needs of both foster parents and the kiddos coming into care. Because a lot of times when kids come into care, they're coming in with just the clothes on their back and that's it. So being able to have a ton of night lights just sitting on a shelf that you can bring to a kid, or, chicken nuggets, mac and cheese, bottles, formula, pajamas, children's Tylenol, all of that stuff that just sometimes when you first take a placement, you just don't have, and there's no way you can just go to the store and get that stuff. So Send Hope is something that we really want to work on launching in 2024 on a small scale, build it up, and then hopefully, really be able to make an impact on the lives of foster or resource parents and kiddos coming into care in Marion and Polk counties. That would just be tremendous because, there's a huge need for foster parents. And so we want to help alleviate some of the stresses of foster parents to keep homes open longer, and just for those kiddos coming into care that have been removed from some terrible circumstances, just to have a book and a nightlight and some warm fuzzy pajamas and a blanket and a stuffed animal and some toys and stuff like that that are their things that they get to take wherever they go. We're really looking forward to that. So be looking out for more stuff on that as the year unfolds. Okay, last thing before we get into the boring stuff that is our finances. Sending the kids to school. I have an incredible image to show you all. Check that out. Those are the kids of Everest Orphanage Association with their school fees, with their books, their notepads. They need toilet paper, apparently. All of the stuff that they need to go to school, we were able to meet those needs because of you guys, because you all stepped up and helped and donated and continue to donate so that we can send these kids to school. Thank you. Thank you so much. I've been there. I've seen these kids. I've danced with these kids. I've eaten with these kids. I've played soccer and keep away with these kids in the field next to the orphanage. And I've been working on the documentary. And so I've been, I see their faces and I see them almost every day of the week on a screen. And so for me, it means so much to know that those kids are in school, because that is something that is going to get these kids out of poverty. Or at least get one step closer to that. So thank you all so much for giving. Truly, it means a lot. I have no words to describe how joyous I was when I saw this image from Derek. Truthfully, it's been a little bit of a pain to get finances over there. We sent $520 over Western Union, and that was a huge pain. We weren't able to send any more. Western Union shut it down. Spent some time on the phone with them trying to figure it out, and they're just, for whatever reason, they can't tell us they're not going to send any more. So, but we were able to get that $520, which was able to get all the kids started in school, get the school fees, all of that stuff. So now we're working with our bank, U.S. Bank, who we bank through for all of our stuff. The ladies at the U.S. Bank office have been just incredible, so helpful. They're invested. They've seen these kids, and so they've been so helpful in moving their schedules around to fit us in to send the money overseas. So huge thanks to them. It costs a little bit more money, but the peace of mind and making sure that it gets there and gets there securely so these kids can go to school is just tremendous. So thank you so much. And kind of going back to your water can be safe for a minute. There's hopefully some some beautiful stuff happening with that. So our goal is to go back to Uganda in 2024 at least once. There's a chance we could go back twice, just depending on kind of how some things unfold in the coming months. But one of the big goals, if you go back and look at our campaign, is to go back and build them a bunch of bunk beds. The kiddos are just sleeping in mats on the floor. You can go back and watch the videos and kind of see their sleeping situation. So we want to go back. That is a need that Derek has explicitly expressed to us, is getting those kids mats, new sleeping mats, getting them bunk beds so they're not sleeping on the floor. Just get some more organization in there. The one thing that we'll do is allow them to have more kids, if we can help sleep them better. And another thing is it will also just be more sanitary, be safer for the kids to be off the floor and just replace the ratty old sleeping mats that they've been sleeping on. A lot of the kids, you can tell they have they have just some issues from clean water and just sleeping on the ground. So we'd love to help alleviate some of those issues. And you all, again, through donating, that's one of our biggest goals as an organization is every single year we want to raise enough money to send those kids to school. That's kind of like a priority one for us. It's about, the hard cost is about $6,200 a year, I believe, of just like, if there were no transfer fees and administrative nonsense, it would be like $6,200 to send all those kids to school. Which is, for one kid, it comes down to about $10 a month. They're $120 a year. We've kind of rounded that up to $15 a month to kind of help with some of the administrative costs of getting, transfer fees for wiring the funds and just some of the administrative stuff in the background, to help get all in the marketing and all that stuff to raise money to help get those kids to school. So if you have any questions on that, please just feel free to ask. Yeah, so that's kind of it for main things as far as our finances go. Again, why do we talk about our finances on a live stream? Just to be overly transparent. We want you guys to know how all of the money that comes into our organization is being used, because you guys are the ones that are giving it. You guys are the people that are donating. So we want you guys to know how our funds are being used. And the second thing is it's public record anyway. If you didn't know, for any nonprofit that's not a church, you can go on and you can look at their, it's called their 990 forms. It's all of their nonprofit information, salaries, how much they spent on salaries and paper clips and, leasing buildings and all that stuff. All public record. So ours is public record anyway. So we feel like, make it easier for you guys, and be transparent so you guys know how stuff is being used. Started February with like $8,500, thanks to some very generous donors. We've sent a little over $1,000 to Derek so far. There's currently a wire on its way to Derek right now as kind of a test, just to make sure that everything works, and then we'll kind of wire the rest of the school fees for this first term, and then we're gonna pay Derek term by term. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, yeah, Western Union kind of frustrated us, but U.S. Bank is really coming handy. So thank you all so much. I mean, it's only 2 people currently watching, and I'm pretty sure one of my screens is one of them. But again, we want to lay the foundation for this organization early on and start with transparency from day one. So all of our monthly updates, our live monthly updates will be available on our YouTube page. So in the live section, you'll be able to go in and see all of our monthly updates. So if you want to go back and see, or if you missed part of it, you can go back and see. And so again, for us, we want to be transparent. These are not our resources. These are your resources. These are the kingdom's resources, and we want to use them well and steward them well, because you all have been so gracious to us. So thank you again so much, and stay tuned for all the things that we have coming up in 2024. See you there.